Hey guys, what's up? It's me Morten and I'm finally back with another mouse review. Before I get started on reviewing the X2H V3 by Pulsar, I'd like to preface a few things. First of all, my hands are 19 by 10 and I use an aggressive carpal stabilized claw grip. What that means is that the back of the mouse sits snugly in the bottom of part of my palm with no contact of the knuckles on my pointing and middle finger, as well as the aggressive part of the claw grip, referring to the fact that my fingers sit anywhere between middle to all the way back on the mouse, on the left and right triggers. The other part is, it is my belief that shape is king, because at this point, if you buy a mouse from a reputable mouse vendor, you really need a robot to tell the difference between the performance of the sensor in this mouse to the performance of the sensor of the Viper V3. We have basically conquered performance to what is perceivable to a human, and you truly do need a robot to tell the difference at this point. Therefore, things like coding, weight, and shape is king. I particularly focus on shape because I believe that's the largest factor. Then afterwards comes weight, and then comes coding. Now, with that being said, I'd also like to point out that I primarily play arena shooters, which is Overwatch, Apex, and occasionally I like to dabble in Rainbow Six. Alright, on to the actual review itself. Let's start off with the good things that I think this mouse does very well. For one, this is the first time that I've ever owned a mouse that is purpose-built for my hand size and grip style. So this fits me like a glove, and the novelty on this, like the novelty feeling, is super strong. The thing that was weird to get used to at the start is that the back hump is very bulbous, while it feels about the big as the back hump of the GPX on the sides. It slims down on the waist quite a bit, so it becomes a lot more bulbous feeling in the back of the hand. And I would say that outside of the trigger placements, like outside of the left and right clicks being lower on this, that would be the primary differentiating factor. Now, next up, let's talk a little bit about BQ. So normally Pulsar has a reputation, at least from when I look at them on Reddit, Discord, and such, where their build quality has not been up to par. And honestly, with this mouse, no matter how hard I stubby squeeze it and attempt to kill the mouse, it will not let me. This is a very well made product. And if my unit's build quality is representative of the rest of the batches, then they're doing a great, fantastic job, and they have really dialed in their build quality. Now, after that, I think we should talk about the side buttons. The side buttons is something that I'm very particular about because I use them a lot in most games for basically anything to melee to a special ability. And coming from the GPX that I've put the absolute objective most amount of hours into, I'd say 300 hours, these side buttons really are terrible. And I think Pulsar nailed it with these. These side buttons genuinely feel like something that could rival a Razer side button, which is a very impressive feat and shows me how good they are at their engineering. Now, the left and right clicks feel light and spammable, perfect for the types of games that I like to play. And the Pulsar Blue encoder is also a treat. I come from whatever the default encoder is on the Razer the Razer Viper V3, and the TTC Gold that I swapped into my GPX1. So this is a very nice change of pace, and honestly, I don't see it being beaten out by, this is honestly my favorite encoder, and I don't see it being beaten by anything, although I'm still very interested to try others. Next up is the battery life, and I figured it's worth mentioning that I got this mouse when it was around 70%, and I've used it on and off between when I first got it in late December to now as my main mouse, both for gaming and for productivity tasks. And I'd say that if you run it at 1K hertz, you could probably get 70 or 80 hours out of it just on a single charge. So that is what I would consider completely acceptable and justified for this price range. And now for what I think is bad about the mouse, or that the mouse I think does poorly. So, first of all, the coating on this is allegedly improved from previous models, but I haven't owned any older Pulsar models, so I can't verify that. But as someone who has dry hands year round and wash them regularly, I can tell you that this coating is just not it. I definitely need grip tape for this if I ever want to make it in the future. And I think that's something we should be wary about as well if you have very dry hands. Now, if you have damp or wet hands or sweaty hands, this is no problem. Secondly, the post travel on my left and right triggers have really been tripping me up and is kind of bad. And I am not sure if this is a problem to my unit in particular, or if this is a problem with the production line. But outside of that, I'd say that they're doing a pretty good job. And last but not least, software. This is a huge your mileage may vary disclaimer, because I've had enough issues with it to where I'll just straight up just set whatever settings I prefer and then uninstall it and never look at it again. But it was functional and provided features similar to that of Razer Synapse, Logitech G-Hub, SteelSeries, you name it. So there's also that. And now, last but not least, the verdict. Should you buy the X2H V3 from Pulsar? Yes and no. I think this has serious potential for being an endgame mouse for a claw gripper like me, but something like the coating being, quite frankly, awful for my hands kind of kills my joy with the mouse. It really does. I hate to be that guy, but it really is a stick in the mud for me. And so moving forward, I'll definitely be checking out and reviewing other mice that could be the endgame claw grip. But if you're not too particularly bothered about the coating, or you have, let's say, sweatier hands than me, then I think this would make you very, very happy.